Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of the Nick Cage Fight Podcast, the podcast done by three codependent gentlemen, where we review Nick Cage-related films. And we are here to talk about Renfield, wrap that one up, which is coincidentally about a codependent guy trying to get out of a toxic relationship. I'm one of your hosts, Josh, joined as always by Rich and Ryan. How are we doing today?
Are we codependent to Nick Cage as well? Is that what the implication is? Okay.
Yes, we are the same as Nicholas Hoult.
So our toxic relationship is with Nicolas Cage. Excellent.
I feel like the past however many episodes we've done so far is incredible evidence to that conclusion. So, yeah, where we last left off, Renfield had been involved in a shootout at a restaurant. Rebecca is following up leads utilizing her FBI agent sister. Dracula has concocted a plan to take over the world and come out of the shadows. And therapy is maybe working? I don't know. All I know is guys will murder Major Ska fan and several assassins instead of going to therapy, you know? But yeah, that's where we left off. And at this point, as I said, you know, Renfield got another session in the church basement and has decided to try and start establishing boundaries for himself in his relationship with Dracula. And we get a kind of a weird montage, like a little bit of a break sort of from the bumbling action in the film, where Renfield gets an apartment and some new clothes, including a hideous pastel sweater.
Nah, that shit was great.
That's a bad sweater, dude.
I mean, you're allowed to have a wrong opinion.
All right, look, if you want a peacock with a purpose, like an ironically bad sweater, that's a great sweater for it. That's all I'm saying. It's just you know, I don't know. I think in the movie it's explicitly played that way. At least give me that.
All right, fine.
Meanwhile, Teddy retreats to the Lobos headquarters, and we get to meet the matriarch of this crime family, which is Teddy's mother. So Teddy is a Nepo baby, which makes a shit ton of sense, as we've established so far in our review of the plot points. Teddy is not super great at this stuff. Although I will say he probably demonstrates one of the primary required characteristics for a career criminal, which is the willingness to do insane shit at the drop of a hat. That's really all you need. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You ain't wrong.
I mean, like Scarface, Tony Montana is not particularly clever in that film. He's just fucking crazy and willing to act crazy. I'm sorry, he gets out of like one nightclub shooting by being savvy and seeing shit happening. But the rest of it is just being fucking nuts. That was his primary primary attribute there.
I do consider that movie to be lesser De Palma, even though it has that totally awesome fucking chainsaw scene.
I mean, there's a lot of scenes in that movie where you're like, holy shit.
yeah, but it's not my favorite De Palma by a long shot.
That's fair. But also you have a lot to pick from there.
That is very fair.
So Teddy's mother gives Teddy the rundown on how the Lobos got to where they were. They're not the richest. They don't have the most foot soldiers. They're basically just fucking crazy, which, again, Teddy lives up to that hype to a certain extent. I do like the framing of the scene where she's giving this speech, because she's walking him through this sort of like not neon, but like washed out, like red and blue, like hidden lighting with just racks of weird bladed torture instruments and shit like that as she goes about it.
And there's like a back projected, somebody's doing, I'm assuming they're breaking down a corpse behind a sheet or something while she's doing this.
I was hoping we were going to see some of that, but we didn't.
Yeah, I do think the Lobos were a missed opportunity. You're really going to have a gang named after wolves that aren't just werewolves in a fucking Dracula movie? Come on. What a waste.
The funny thing to me is that, like, when you first suggested that, I was like, that's a bridge too far when we're trying to focus on vampires being like the standout weirdness in an otherwise modern setting. But I forgot what fucking movie we were talking about because they could have totally leaned into that.
Absolutely, yeah. They do kind of lean into it because when they storm the restaurant, they're wearing wolf masks, which is what made me think, oh shit, these guys are going to end up being werewolves, and like the final showdown's going to be on a full moon night.
That I honestly think that probably would have been cooler. And if
And
they had done
it would
if
have
they
been
had done that, they
perfect.
could have done away with the bug thing that bothers you.
Absolutely, they could have done away with the bug thing. Also, it would have made sense because Robert Kirkman did a comic series called The Astonishing Wolfman about fucking werewolves.
Yeah, it was interesting for them to leave that opportunity on the table, but also again, like Rich, I understand you wanting to actually see like the corpse breakdown, maybe to give some context to it, but it was well done for an idea that maybe they didn't flesh out in their heads because you got that cool silhouette shot. The silhouette shot of something awful happening behind a screen, pretty neat, in my opinion.
Right. To me, it was just kind of like you already have all this gore in this movie. Like, I figured if they showed us something, it would have made them, be scarier.
I think with the exception of some explicit scenes with Dracula, the horror aspect was almost completely disregarded.
Oh
Right?
yeah, no, no, no. That's why I didn't say the word. It wasn't a horror movie, but it is. This movie is gory, but not in a horror way.
Yeah, but I wouldn't even call it because like I was thinking about it today while I was at work in like preparation for recording, and I was like, a horror comedy is not the this is an action comedy. It
It's
just has supernatural
supernatural
elements.
comedy, yeah.
Yeah,
It's an action comedy with supernatural elements.
right. There's no straight up horror. It's not Evil Dead 2.
No, not a lot of movies are.
Yeah, if they weren't going for like the juxtaposition of like an otherwise sort of scrawny lead being able to do all of this insane shit, they could have cast the lead as Mark Wahlberg. I think he would have gotten basically the same effect, to be
Shit, I
honest
would have
with you.
watched that.
I would too. Yeah, just picturing Mark Wahlberg. It's like, what do you mean this isn't good enough? I brought you like 6 bodies. Do you want me to go out? You want a bus full of cheerleaders? Where am I going to find that? Anyway, sorry. Yeah, we have a real movie to review, not our head fantasy of Mark Wahlberg starring in Renfield.
Yeah.
So the matriarch of the Lobos tasks Teddy in finding who is responsible for the absolute murder of a bunch of their foot soldiers, because the Lobos need to get revenge. And I think it's at this point that he manages to find Dracula's lair.
That sounds right.
Yeah. And again, during all of this, Renfield is getting his own apartment. He's showing up at the police station with flowers for Rebecca. And so Teddy and just a small handful of goons find the Dracula's lair. And they go in and they comment on how fucked up, the best set in the film is, correctly. And Dracula just starts from the shadows, like Batman picking off the various muscle that Teddy has brought with him.
Well, yeah, he is literally a Batman.
Yeah, the Batman. And this culminates with a direct face-to-face confrontation between Teddy and Dracula. But Dracula has an idea. So during this conversation, it's sort of revealed that, the reason why Teddy's there is because Renfield killed a bunch of the bad guys and protected a bunch of innocent people at the restaurant. And this is news to Dracula. And so then he starts inquiring about the Lobos as an organization, specifically the criminal aspects of it, and makes a proposition. Dracula sees the Lobos as a solid option to starting his quest for world domination. And he can provide them with the extra juice to actually pull this off, which does make sense. Some supernatural enhancements to a street gang, that's a game changer. So he does throw Teddy around a bit, but it seems they come to some kind of accord at this point in time. So after Renfield does attempt to help the police in establishing some sort of case against the Lobos gang, primarily to curry favor with Rebecca directly. Dracula learns about Renfield's betrayal in general from Teddy, and also I can't remember how he finds out about it, but he finds out about the church support group.
That is, I know how he finds out about that. So he goes to Renfield's apartment.
Oh, that's right.
And Renfield pulls out the book about narcissists and starts reading from it at Dracula like it's a Bible because it has power for him. And he sees the sticker on the back that references the church.
That's right. Okay, yeah. So Dracula shows up at Renfield's new apartment and plays it like it is very menacing, but he's playing it like he's being nice before, demanding that Renfield basically come to heel. And that's when Renfield grabs the How to Deal with a Narcissist book, and attempts to use it to shout down Dracula, which fails miserably.
The scene is structured like when you realize that the dude is an abusive piece of shit in a Lifetime movie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It definitely had those vibes.
Yeah.
There's also a nice visual gag in this scene, which is something they don't bring up, but I think people know enough about vampire lore that they can't enter a home without being invited in. So so as Renfield like comes back in, he's like shocked to see him there. And he's like, "How did you get in?" He's like, "You invited me." And he looks down at his foot mat, and it says, "Welcome, please come in."
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he has a moment like, how did I not think of that?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Yeah, I enjoyed that.
So yeah, after seeing the sticker on the back of the book, Dracula takes off. And then I believe it's at this point that Renfield scrambles to get to the church as quickly as he can. And he does get there before Dracula, manages to storm in. And this is, I think, another recurring gag where one of the members is sharing a story, and Renfield busts in and interrupts her. This is also not the first time that she's been interrupted in the church scenes, so it's a bit funny. But Renfield goes in and tries to convince everybody to leave as soon as possible. Dracula is coming for them. Again, everybody in the group thinks he just has a bad boss and not an actual monster. And Renfield is trying to convince them when Dracula does arrive. And of course, the group leader invites him in, with Renfield not being able to protest quick enough. Dracula immediately starts doing Dracula shit, like flying up into the air, where we get the group leader saying, "I think we're dealing with a little bit more than a narcissistic boss." And then, of course, from here, a absolute slaughter ensues with Dracula just murdering basically everybody in the group.
And again, another funny gag when he's coming in when he's coming in. And the guy's like, "Is that somebody new? Well, come on in, fella."
Yeah. Yeah. And Renfield's desperately trying to stop the invitation bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, I enjoyed the invitation bits. I don't know why. Something I just thought was humorous.
Well, it's because it's a clever use of the actual vampire lore, which I was expecting a little bit more of in this.
Yeah.
You were expecting a little bit too much. Also, they had to get around that. That's a very easy defense against a murderous vampire. So they had to basically turn it into a gag each time to just give him unfettered access to continue moving the plot forward. So everybody gets murdered, despite Renfield's attempts to stop it. In fact, I think at the very start of it, like Dracula hits Renfield very hard and he flies through the air. And basically, by the time he lands, Dracula has murdered everybody in the room. So Renfield rushes to the group leader's side to try and stem the mortal wound that the man has received. And it's at this point that Rebecca shows up. So while this was occurring, Rebecca's sister called her and informed her that the DNA evidence from the pen used in the original crime scene with the ska guy is tied to a bunch of murders and disappearances over the course of
90 years, as she says, or something.
She clarifies the time frame later in the film. but
She just says decades, I think, in this scene.
yeah, but
Yeah,
like
I think she says decades, and she says the guy you're looking for must be in his 70s or 80s.
yeah, but she
Yeah.
gets that info in a later phone call.
Oh, my bad. Okay.
But
Spoilers.
something directs her towards Renfield or the church. I can't remember exactly what leads her to the church, but the cops show up almost immediately in the aftermath of all this. And of course, Renfield is the only one living and covered in blood, so he gets arrested. As Rebecca is going to take him in, basically her cop car gets stopped by or I think it's her partner is driving. At any rate, they do not make it to the police station. They stop along the road, and a bunch of cars roll up, a bunch of additional cop cars and a bunch of cars with Lobos members in them. So everybody gets out of the car. Rebecca's partner from the DUI stop, he's in on it. The police chief is in on it. Everybody's in on it, basically. And the matriarch of the Lobos is there as well. And she says, "Look, we can stop you getting squashed at the police department. You can get promoted. You can do whatever job you want. All you have to do is fucking play ball with the corruption." And this is where the Kyle joke comes in, where like the police chief is like, "You can even have Kyle's parking spot." Kyle's like, "Yeah, wait, what?" And so essentially, she's being pressured to hand over Renfield. She acts like she's going to play along, and then I think she shoots like a transformer or something, causing sparks, and goes to flee in the cop car with Renfield still handcuffed in the back. I believe she gets shot in the shoulder in this scene, and they take off. And where they go from here is directly to a store to purchase goods and services. That's not true, but it is time for an ad.
Oh, that was a good transition. God damn. Man, I was slacking on that one. I was looking at something on my other screen. Like, this is all fucked up.
I hope you enjoyed those advertisements for goods and services. They're probably horrific given our track record.
And you probably just hit that plus 15-second fucking button a bunch of times anyway.
Yep.
Yeah, but hopefully you heard something cool about, like, I don't know, gold stacking or something.
Maybe.
Or some silver nitrate to rub on your skin.
Colloidal silver.
Colloidal silver.
God, we really do have to launch our nutraceutical line.
There's so many good scams we can really be doing at this very moment.
So Rebecca, after sustaining her injury and fleeing from the cops, I'm assuming at some point blacks out and then wakes up sometime later on the couch at Renfield's apartment. And she's got, a bandage over a gunshot wound, and Renfield is walking around with snapped handcuffs on his wrists, and he has made her tea and cookies.
Snickerdoodle cookies.
There you go. And
breakfast of champions.
When Rebecca comes to and sees Renfield, she pulls a gun on him immediately. She's very suspicious in general. She doesn't want him to come near her, and he basically gives her a rundown of what happened, how he came to be in Dracula's service. He was trying to provide for his family. He thought this was the way to do it, and then he, got caught up in all of this shit. That being said, he's been doing awful shit for like 70 fucking years now, or however long it's been. So something in his story causes Rebecca to relent a little bit, and she does take a cookie, although she insists on him giving her the not fucked up looking one. And at this point in time, she gets a call from her sister, who expands upon the information gathered from the pen. So basically, she's like, the DNA evidence on this, whoever this is from, may be like the most prolific serial killer of all time, and he's got to be like 70 or 80 years old. Like, where are you? And she's like, I'm at his apartment. And her sister wants to come get her, and she says, no, we'll come to you. And her sister's like, all right, well, at least tell me you didn't accept anything from him, any food or drink. And she's like, I'm not going to eat cookies made by a serial killer. Like, calm down. Like, right after she has done this. So Rebecca's plan at this point is to deliver Renfield to the FBI and warn them of the greater threat of Dracula specifically. So at this point, because Renfield just drove a fucking cop car to his apartment, a bunch of police officers and Lobos are en route right at this moment, and looking out the window, Rebecca and Renfield see them converge on them. So Renfield insists that they got to find some bugs right now so he can do what he did in the restaurant and they can make it out of here. And then we get one of the more insane action sequences in the film.
Still not shot great though. It's got that like choppy editing that I don't like in action.
It's got that too many cuts going on.
Yeah.
I say insane in not a good way. This is one of the weaker action sequences in the film. It's done in that weird, like you're in a condo, but it's got like external balconies all running down in like a central plot from the building.
Yes, yeah, it's got like a courtyard.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So police and Lobos show up. Renfield eats some bugs and goes ham leaping in between stories on the balconies and tearing people to pieces. Most notably, one of the most ridiculous bits of violence in this film is Renfield grabs both arms of one of these bad guys and then kicks him in the chest, separating both arms from his body, which he then wields like nunchucks to brutalize several other people.
That part was good.
Before whipping one or both of the severed arms at somebody about to shoot Rebecca, impaling them on the shard of bone at the bloody end of the arm.
Yeah, it was pretty solid.
Yeah, no, that part was real good.
Just gallons and gallons of CGI blood.
Now, you see, when you said that this scene was bad, I was like, no, this is a nunchuck arm scene. This scene fucks. But then I remember the rest of it. I'm like, yeah, never mind.
It's all like CGI blood splatter and stuff like that. The only thing I'll give it credit for is the very end of it. Renfield ends up at the bottom of the courtyard on top of an SUV, and there is just a mound of bodies on and around this vehicle. That was a cool shot.
Yeah.
So Renfield helps Rebecca get down from the balcony she's on, and they
you forgot something. He eats a whole ant farm.
That's right. When they're looking for bugs, there was like a previous scene when he gets the apartment where a kid is showing off, one of his neighbors is showing off his ant farm, and right before they get attacked, like he basically busts into this apartment and takes the kid's ant farm and just upends it over his mouth. That was a good scene.
Yeah, I do like seeing a man eat a whole ant farm. Good tie into the ant bully.
Yeah. That's how Ant Bully really ended. So at this point, I'm having trouble.
They go to Cafe Du Monde after this, and I think this is also when Tedward Lobo shows up at his mom's house with a Dracula.
Yes, that's correct. So yeah, they escape to a cafe.
Specifically Cafe Du Monde. Their coffee's very good. I buy it occasionally.
Ah, there you go. This, I remember my major complaint with this is they're now on the run. They know they're on the run from police, but Rebecca is not bothered to remove the snapped handcuffs from Renfield's wrists, which I feel would make you stand out.
Yeah,
probably.
Nah, listen, just a bad dungeon scene. They had to cut the handcuffs.
Yeah. I mean, I have a feeling like New Orleans might be like Atlantic City in that people kind of look the other way when crazy shit goes on. So if you see a dude that just got handcuffed bracelets on, you're just gonna be like, not my problem.
Yeah, maybe, but they're at like a nice cafe, presumably, right?
It's like a touristy kind of cafe. They have good beignets there.
There you go.
I've seen weirder shit in like nice casino breakfasts.
Yeah, I have.
All right, first of all,
if they got the steak and egg combo, you're going to see some weird shit.
I was going to say, first of all, no such fucking thing. Any eatery, almost any eatery attached to a casino, but most explicitly breakfast joints, you're going to find all range of degenerate human beings at all times.
Correct.
Yeah.
You got Willem Dafoe rubbing his bare ass feet on the carpet. You know what I mean? We've seen it demonstrated in films and in our own real lives. But anyway, so yes, Ryan, you were right. Teddy introduces his mother to Dracula. They all come to an accord. And that is really what brings things to a head at the cafe for Renfield and Rebecca, because Renfield gets psychically assaulted by Dracula, basically. And Rebecca gets a call from I believe it's the matriarch of the Lobos.
I think it's from her sister's cell phone, though.
Yes. So Rebecca is informed that her sister has been taken hostage. Dracula informs Renfield that he's going to make him suffer, and he hasn't finished killing everybody that Renfield cares about at this point. So we're on a collision course for the finale of the movie. Rebecca's ready to head off, and Renfield's like, wait, we have to do this smart or we're going to get murdered. We're going up against not just a criminal organization, but a honest to God monster. So here's what we got to do. And his plan is they got to act quick because they have to do it while the sun is still up. They have to get a bunch of bugs and powder to do a protection circle. And they sort of give up on that idea very quickly, mainly because Rebecca makes fun of it, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, she shoots it down real quick.
Yeah.
So they head towards the Lobos stronghold, which has some pretty absurd exterior decorations, like pillars and like golden lion statues and shit. We've seen it a couple of times. Basically, every time we go to enter the stronghold itself in various scenes, but it is funny. Also, they stole a car, right, at some point, because they have like some muscle car that they roll up in.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think it's Teddy's car, isn't it?
I was gonna say, I think it was like Teddy's impounded car originally.
Yeah,
which,
I think that's what it was.
Which
Yeah, because I remember them
implies
saying that, like, oh, we're just gonna roll up in style.
it implies they impounded Teddy's car when he got arrested with all the cocaine, and then they let him walk. And several days passed, but the corrupt police force did not release his property back to him.
Yeah.
I don't know. Don't read too much into it.
I mean, if The Wire has told me anything, you can keep whatever you want if you're a cop.
Well,
Well,
it's civil forfeiture, baby.
Yeah, that has happened a lot in real life. Look up some articles about civil forfeiture. It'll make you mad.
Cops
Yeah.
have stolen more property than criminals have in the past 3 years.
Yep. So anyway, they roll up and they storm into the compound, and it's at this point that we learn that Dracula has made good on his offer to the Lobos by basically turning not only Teddy but a bunch of their foot soldiers into Renfields. They've all got the eye glow. They've clearly been eating bugs. And then the weakest utilization of Ben Schwartz in the whole film is when they walk in. He does a very bad, or he does this with a bad CGI centipede that crawls out of his sleeve. He snorts it while delivering the line, "Do I know you? You look familiar."
It's bad. It's a bad line.
It's the worst. It's the worst utilization of Schwartz in the film. The rest of it's pretty solid.
It's groan worthy. I think I groaned in the theater.
I know I did. That might have drowned out your groan, and that's
Yeah.
why I missed it. I'm not sure, but it was.
Dueling
Oh, you see,
groans.
I'm just a big old dummy, and I remember the scene happening where I chuckled and then groaned because it was one of those things where it's like, it's funny. He's putting a bug up his nose. It sucks.
It's the schlockiest reference to him being a familiar, them all being familiars at this point. And it's just bad joke. Bad pun joke.
Yeah.
But then of course, big fight sequence kicks off. Renfield is kind of getting the business because there's a bunch of him. And again, the movie doesn't clarify this, but I remember thinking at the time, is like, how does Renfield beat like 15 guys with his exact powers? And you're like, oh yeah, he's been doing this for like 60 years.
Yeah.
He does have the benefit of experience, with these supernatural powers to try and give him the edge. And he also has backup in the form of Rebecca, who's shooting the shit out of people. Apparently Renfield powers do not protect you from bullets, and Getting shot in the dome is still going to put you down pretty solid.
Yeah,
Which is weird because in like the first act of the movie, he had the Renfield powers versus, the assassin, who basically guts him. And he's still able to pull 3 bodies.
right. That's because he knows he's going to be able to be healed by the Dracula blood. I think he's working on adrenaline at that point.
Fair enough. Okay.
Yeah. Also, we probably are bad. We didn't specifically go over that scene. Dracula in one of the earlier scenes when he's scolding Renfield rips open his stomach wound, dropping his intestines basically everywhere before cutting himself and bleeding on Renfield, which heals him miraculously. This is going to become important.
Right, but that is something that I feel like vampire lore, like people just kind of know that the vampire blood, like, will either heal you or if it's true blood, will get you high. Like, there's something mythical about it.
Or if
Sure.
the intention of the vampire is to turn you, it will make you into their thrall or a full-blooded vampire, depending on, again, the lore it's coming from specifically.
So I'm excited to wrap up this plot because we can just argue about vampire lore a whole bunch at the end, and that'll be fun.
Yeah.
So this fight occurs, and at some point, Rebecca and Renfield get separated, and Renfield is left to face off with Teddy basically one-on-one, whereas Rebecca is confronted by both Matriarch Lobos and Dracula directly. Let's cover Renfield first, because it's an action sequence and easier and quicker. So Teddy tries taunting Renfield, saying it's got to kill you. Like I'm just like you, but better, and that's why I got picked. He's a real pick me, which, given his relationship with his mother, kind of makes sense. I don't necessarily fault him for it, but his whole like gloating speech is like, I got picked. I'm special, and Renfield's like, you have no idea what you've stepped in. Of course, none of this convinces Renfield to spare Teddy from his fate, which is after like doing a fair job of kicking Renfield's ass. Renfield, as Teddy is flying through the air for a leaping strike to deliver the killing blow, Renfield eats like a handful of bugs from like an Altoids tin he has in his pocket or some shit like that, and delivers, I think it's a like a spin kick directly to Teddy's torso, where we get the full on Mortal Kombat X-ray crushing blow as we see all of his bones and spine just sort of shatter before flying back and bleeding copiously. I can't remember if there's a follow-up killing blow delivered at this point. Does anybody remember that?
No, I think that was the killing blow.
It is very, very certainly implied. Again, the X-ray, his body is fucking shattered.
Yeah.
So while Teddy is in the process of getting put down, Rebecca is having a conversation-based combat with Dracula. So the broken and battered body of her sister is brought out on like a rolling stretcher, and Dracula is like, look, partner up with me. I can save your sister with my blood. Basically, she's on the verge of death or already dead. She's pretty fucked up. And Dracula's like, I'll save her. You agree to work for me. And like, you're super upset about all these injustices. We can right these injustices. All we need is the right person or people in charge. It can be you and me, and we can fix all of this shit that makes you mad. Now, Renfield had previously warned Rebecca that this is Dracula's greatest power, is offering you what you truly, truly want, like advertisements for goods and services. So listen closely, because algorithmically, what is about to play is what you need.
Fucking nailed it. I wonder if there is a dick pill called Dracula's Blood.
Oh, there's gotta be. They sell it in like Herzegovina or some shit.
I feel a Google search coming on.
All right, give me a second.
All right, good. You can fuck up your algorithm. I already have been seeing too many spontaneous dick
my
pill ads
algorithm
lately.
is destroyed already. I don't need to do any more work on that.
Yeah, your Google at this point is just like, what the fuck?
Yeah, your automated Google ads are just for like ballasongs and dick pills.
And Nick Cage movies you can buy for $1.50 on eBay.
Yeah. So Dracula makes a pretty strong pitch. Not only will he save her sister, he's sort of implying he'll abandon the Lobos. Like, hey, look, you and I can partner up and it'll be great. And so Renfield arrives just in time to sort of witness the climax of this pitch from Dracula, in which Rebecca pulls the same trick twice in the latter half of the film, where she's like, yeah, that sounds good, and then starts pressing the button to raise the fucking blast shields over the windows to let sunlight in, and it takes a minute to activate, and so she's like shit as she's clicking the button, and shit pops off from there. So this ends up like the light comes in, Dracula starts burning, transforms into a flock of bats, and takes off deeper into the compound. Matriarch Lobos runs away. I can't remember exactly what happens.
I think she does just run away. I
Okay.
don't recall her
Yeah.
getting her just desserts. Also, there is not a dick pill named that.
There you go. Hey,
Damn it.
an opening in the market. Just saying.
Ah,
You just gotta just stuff a bunch of capsules full of niacin and turmeric, and we're in business, baby.
rhinoceros horn.
You should probably just throw some creatine in there too.
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all vasodilators and sawdust. So, Rebecca and Renfield pursue Dracula into the shadowy depths of the stronghold, essentially the torture room, where they start fighting, and it's not going super well for our intrepid heroes. Rebecca gets knocked back, and Renfield starts getting fucked up pretty severely by Dracula directly. The only thing that turns the tide of the battle is so just to give it its due, like Dracula goes to bite Renfield, like tear out his throat or something, and his incisors grow to an insane size. Renfield blocks it with his hands and then snaps the fangs off. So for the rest of the fight, he has Dracula fangs piercing through the backs of his hands. Dracula just grows new teeth because that's a thing. But the tide of the fight is turned only when Rebecca uses just so much cocaine to draw a circle on the ground and Google the Latin phrase required on her phone, trapping Dracula in a cocaine protective circle.
And then
Chekhov's protective circle.
fucking exactly. If you see it in the first act, it's got to come through on the third.
Yep. And I have to give a shout out, fan and friend of the pod called this in like the first 15 minutes of the film. He went with us to the movie. His name's he lives at
Am I gonna have to beep that, or is that
no, you have to fucking
okay?
That.
All right, cool.
I would say bleep the whole name too.
So I had to bleep some stuff in the last
everything, dude.
No, like as you're saying, I'm just like, he's not. He did what?
So Dracula is now trapped in a gigantic cocaine protective circle, and Renfield and Rebecca have like a moment where they're like, did we win? Like, I think we won. So what do we do? And they look around and they're in the torture room with all of the weapons on the wall, and we get some zoom ins on like a bunch of different things, like a big ass sledgehammer, various blades. I believe a chainsaw is involved. And so they just go to town in a CGI blood spattered gore fest, just smashing and hacking and sawing at Dracula, who's really off screen the entire time. They're just slamming down out of frame. And then like collecting all of his bits and mixing it in concrete and putting it in fucking ice cube trays that they got
Yeah.
somewhere, and then sweeping all of it down into the sewer. And there's Renfield specifically, we get voiceover where he's like, I'm not even sure if all of this is how you kill him properly or effectively, but either way, it would take him an absurd amount of time to come back. And so from this point, we get the aftermath scenes. Basically, Rebecca revealing that she's not going to arrest Renfield or put him in jail for all of the many murders and disappearances he's been complicit in. Her sister is fine. And Renfield actually apparently tells her that she was revived using Dracula's blood with its miraculous healing capabilities. And we get another interaction between Rebecca and Renfield, where Renfield has like one of those old school like Rubbermaid containers that you had Kool-Aid in when you were a kid, with a tape label on it saying Dracula's blood. And then to finish off the film, we get another shot in group therapy with the entire group that was murdered and Renfield talking about all the things that they've learned about dealing with people with narcissism and coping with their own codependencies. And at first, I briefly, and I don't know why, because they telegraph it very strongly in the previous scene, I thought like he's having like a dream sequence to sort of like console himself. But almost immediately, it's referenced by the leader of the group therapy session that he brought them all back with Dracula's blood and thank you. And there's a funny bit. It's like, thank you for bringing us all back from the other side, but there's no way to unsee what we saw or unknow what we now know. It's just like this dark introspection that's actually kind of funny.
Yeah.
It's just because of his jolly disposition.
Yeah, the delivery by like a like chronically upbeat, we can work this out type individual talking about horrors beyond comprehension is kind of funny.
Yeah.
And then we get a final voiceover from Renfield, which again explicitly lays out that the movie is about codependency and dealing with codependency, just told through the lens of a sort of action comedy with supernatural elements. And then roll credits. No post-credit scene. The credits themselves were really cool, overly stylized and stuff like that. I won't ruin it. It's one of those things that you kind of got to see to appreciate, but no mid or post-credit scene. Thank God.
They do use the font from the original Todd Browning Dracula, though. At the very end, when it shows the title of the movie, Renfield is in that like red and yellow kind of blocky font, which I like so well.
Yeah, absolutely. That was, I mean, we were the last ones out of the theater because, of course, we were waiting just to make sure we absorbed every last bit of this movie to relay to you, dear listener.
Drank up all its blood.
Yep, exactly.
And it's because we are Marvel poisoned that every movie has to have a post-credit scene.
It's absurd. It's made me paranoid. And I hate it. But, like overall, this, in my opinion, is middle of the road. It's just a run-of-the-mill action comedy.
It was fine. It was not a franchise starter like I think they wanted it to be.
Yeah.
It was fun, but it was one of those things where it was like, it did neither of the elements of the genre to a standout degree.
Yes, correct.
The comedy was basic, the action was basic. If they had gone all practical effects on it, I would have just been screaming about how good the action bits were. You could have thrown shitty dialogue at me all day, and I would have still loved the hell out of it.
This movie really smacks of like something that you'll see on TNT on a Saturday afternoon in a couple of years.
Which is kind of a shame because they leaned into the R rating with the CGI gore, so the TV cut's gonna suck shit.
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. It's gonna be dialogue that 13-year-olds will find wildly entertaining for about 2 weeks. And that's really it. There's no makings of a cult hit here. I don't think it's gonna have a lot of staying power, which is kind of unfortunate because I wouldn't chalk any of the weaknesses of this up to the acting performances. I think Cage did a fucking great job.
He's wanted to play Dracula for like 3 decades now, though.
Yeah. And he looked great. The fucking costume design for him was fantastic. Again, some real standout set work, and then just some kind of inexplicable decisions were made to condemn this film to mediocrity. You know?
Yeah, and
have,
it was not the acting. It was not the acting. Everybody was very good.
I do have a funny little anecdote. Apparently, Cage was supposed to be he was supposed to play Jonathan Harker in the Francis Ford Coppola Dracula, but Francis Ford Coppola had a bad taste in his mouth from directing Peggy Sue Got Married, where he said that Cage hijacked the picture with his acting choices.
I can see that.
Yeah.
We still haven't seen Peggy Sue, so I'm glad you said that, because that's going to be in the forefront of my mind when we eventually come around to that film.
It's the movie that Cher saw, and she was like, "Yeah, I need this man for Moonstruck."
So that's going to be stuck in my head too.
Yeah,
interesting.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I can see that. I could absolutely see that. Cage really does. He you know, what he's doing is sort of going to set the tone for the entirety of the film, make or break. You know what I mean? So overall, this is a brainless watch. You turn it on, you'll be entertained. I don't think it's got a whole lot of rewatch value. Of course, I will purchase it because I need the entire filmography of Nick Cage in my actual possession. But other than that, like I said, I would peg it way below some of the podcast's favorite hits, which have an odd number of direct-to-DVD ones from them. Those are much stronger picks if you're limited. This is not going to be making desert island movie lists, I think, but
no,
otherwise
it was not better than Between Worlds.
Correct.
Wasn't better than Kill Chain.
Also correct. Yeah, it's fine, but that's it. That's all it is. It's not going to reach higher than that. Unfortunately, I was hoping for something that was going to be really campy and cultish, and I think they could have pulled that off, but they decided to try and split the middle with it, which again is almost always going to land you directly in the middle, and you're not going to find much movement from there.
Yeah, that's exactly where this film was. Like, calling it mid seems like it's too much of an insult nowadays, but it's like it's middle of the pack. That's kind of what it is.
It's the ska music of vampire movies.
Yeah, it's fun for 2 weeks, and you kind of remember when you were like 14 years old and you had a friend who had an Operation Ivy shirt on.
I really liked Operation Ivy when I was a teenager too.
Everybody did.
I mean, they have that one album that's still kind of good.
They only have the one album.
They do only have that one album, yeah.
Yeah,
then they turned into Rancid.
Exactly, I was gonna say you have to
yeah, and then Rancid had the one album that was good.
Yeah.
And they're somehow still around somehow against all odds.
It's all that marketing money. I think they make most of their shit on t-shirts.
Yeah, I might be responsible for the sales of some of those.
Yeah.
If you dig deep enough. So we have a little bit less time than I thought we would after running down the plot. But Ryan, as resident vampire lore expert, how did you feel about it?
It was fun. There weren't really any standout subversions of vampire lore. I thought the having to be invited in stuff was pretty good, but like nothing I haven't seen before in other vampire comedies.
No, and the invited in thing had to be treated as a joke each time it came up, otherwise it would have ground the whole thing to a halt. And a movie like this is just momentum. That's
right,
specifically what it relies on. You can't slow down the plot, or else you're making a different movie. So there's that. No reference to silver, crucifixes, or garlic. You basically had the have to be invited in, sunlight hurts him, and protection circles that aren't intrinsically related to salt, just powder.
Just powder, yeah. And they didn't reference the fact that vampires can't pass running water. There was just a lot of stuff left on the table that you could have made some like decent comedy bits out of.
Yeah. So a little weak on the vampire lore. Also, sunlight hurt him instead of turning him sparkly. So you're subverting the vampire lore of Twilight. Really, really no nods to any of the classics.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, yeah, like I said, it was fine. It's a vampire movie for people who don't really care too much about vampires. It's an action movie for people who don't care too much about action. It's a comedy movie for people who don't care too much about comedy.
It's the Black Eyed Peas.
It's the Black Eyed
Peas
of films, which is fine. Maybe you'll play it at a wedding. I don't know. Oh, that's right. I would be remiss if I did not explicitly mention this, especially because I made a Twilight joke. So, if you are not aware of this tidbit of information about Twilight, Stephenie Meyers wrote Twilight as sort of a romanticized fan fiction about the band My Chemical Romance. And so when it got optioned for a major film deal starring Robert Pattinson, one of the things that she wanted to do was get explicitly a song written by My Chemical Romance for the film. And MCR refused outright and then wrote a different song called, I think it was called Vampire Money or something like that, explicitly making fun of the fact that they wouldn't do this shit.
Yeah, I don't know. It wasn't on the first two albums. Do not care.
But included in the soundtrack to Renfield was an MCR song. So they did sign off for the inclusion of one of their songs in a vampire movie, but not the one where a person really wanted it involved. So solid bit of shade at another vampire movie.
Yeah, that is pretty good.
Yeah, whether or not that shade was thrown from a position of power is up to other people, but I did think it was funny, and again would have been doing a disservice if I failed to mention it. So I'm glad I thought of that before we concluded.
Yeah, I feel like the days of MCR's relevancy is come and gone. They had that brief stop in 2019. The COVID just curb stomped, but.
Did you, not to turn this into an MCR podcast, but did you hear about why they did that after so many years of silence?
I'm assuming money because those tickets were $300 each.
Was it because they owed the tax man?
No, not explicitly. Apparently, one of their major inspirations musically was Smashing Pumpkins, which had a similar long drawn out silence and then a revival. I think it was like 7 years after their last big entrance. And so MCR's announcement for their return tour was roughly the same amount of time that the Smashing Pumpkins took.
You know what? So you know what? Like I get that because like the Smashing Pumpkins are kind of the same. They have like 4 songs that are really good and the rest is just fucking garbage.
I disagree. I really like Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, and
I do not like the Smashing Pumpkins, nor do I really like MCR. MCR has like 3 good songs.
I agree with that. MCR has like that one album I really like, and then their first album had like 2 good songs on it. But Smashing Pumpkins, I like more of their stuff than I dislike personally.
Yeah, I have to.
I mean, agree. I don't like fucking Billy Corgan as a person, but I like their music.
I have to agree with Ryan in that the Smashing Pumpkins catalog was genre defining while transcending over the course of fucking years. You had Siamese Dream, you had Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness, you had fucking Glass in the Machine, which was bizarre. You had Adore, which was
Adore. Bizarre. That was the one I was thinking about. I love Adore. Adore is an album I will listen to drop of a hat.
Yeah. Nope, it all sucks. They're all wrong.
They're the closest thing to a like actually successful shoegaze band.
Yeah, their impact on music cannot be denied, I think, with any real integrity.
No, of course. But again, I will.
You're the hater. So. You're drinking the haterade.
I am drinking the haterade.
No, and that
Josh is like, no, this will not stand.
Fine, but no, absolutely not. And also, Billy Corgan, 100%, as a person, seems pretty shitty, but he's definitely a problematic fave of mine. Have you ever seen his Cat magazine?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, okay.
You ever read that interview where he says he saw a skinwalker out his back door once?
The number of interviews with Billy Corgan where he has said berserk shit is as uncountable as the stars in the sky. The shit that comes out of that man's mouth over the course of his career has been just bonkers. So
I got a video I gotta find and send you. It's from one of his more recent concerts, and he's just sitting back with the sound guy.
Is he eating
chips.
nachos?
He's eating nachos while the band plays.
that
Dip and everything.
Yep, I've seen that
perfectly. But I do also have to disagree with both of you in that I like a majority of the shit MCR put out. And my favorite anecdote about them specifically is perhaps the quintessential emo anthem of all time was written about Joe Rogan's aunt.
Huh.
Because
what, Helena?
Gerard Way and Joe Rogan are cousins. And yes, I am referencing
Weird.
Helena.
That is peculiar.
What?
Isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I like Gerard Way. He writes some good comic books.
He does. I liked his comic books.
He himself seems like a fine person who I have no qualms with. What it was with me is the Black Parade came out when I was 18 years old. When I was 18,
that's the album they lost me on. I did not like that at all.
I prided myself on bad opinions. So that came out. I fucking hated it. I fucking hated that album. I worked at American Eagle at the time, and I had to listen to the song The Black Parade once every 45 minutes because it was on the soundtrack. And I just fucking hated it.
A lower track record than you would have had if you were working at Hot Topic, at least.
Now, here is the other band that I compare this to is, for years, I hated The Devil and God Are Raging Inside Me. Hated it, refused, listened to it once, fucking hated it. And about 7 years later, I came around on it. I'm like, okay, this is a good album. Never happened with Black Parade. But I do
you came around just in time for them to get canceled.
Just in time. No, the cancellation was like later on, and also they were low key canceled in New York since like 1999. Like everybody in New York was just like, "Oh yeah, Brand New's good," but like Jesse Lacey like just really likes high school girls.
See,
but with that being said, Black Parade does have fucking teenagers, and that song slaps.
Yeah, like I said, I like most of their shit. Gerard Way was a nerd who made it.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
Stuck to his fucking guns, and I respect the shit out of that. So yeah, I got a soft spot, unashamed. But yeah, all right, it's fine. There's some music opinions for you guys, and also a bunch of more weird anecdotes that you can share. Don't fact check, just spread it. And I think that's gonna do it for us. There's Renfield. Oh, my favorite part of the show.
Yeah.
The fuck are we doing next?
Yeah, what are we doing next?
What are we doing next? I have the answer already, and it's a movie that Josh has brought up a few times. I'm not sure if it was been on the podcast or just in personal conversation saying he can't wait to watch this movie. It's Jiu-Jitsu.
Ooh.
It's so bad. It is so bad, and we're going to have so much fun. So much fun.
All right, I'm sold on the name alone. I love it when Nick Cage is in movies where he has to fight because he can't fight too good.
Oh, I hate this. I hate to spoil it for you, but I have to. There's no jujitsu in this movie.
Awesome.
It might be the only martial art that is not demonstrated at all.
Sick.
It's so trash, but it's exactly the kind of trash we like to soak in here at the Nick Cage Fight Podcast. I'm very excited, A, to rewatch it, and B, for you guys to watch it and get your opinions, because it is hot dog water. It's rough.
I'm very excited.
But I'm so excited. Fucking jujitsu. Oh, you're going to hate it.
Yeah,
good.
Maybe.
Good. I'm glad.
I might love it. This might be an A+ film for me.
Ryan, you might love it.
I might love it.
Let's take a look. Let me type in jiu-jitsu in the old Wikipedia.
Yeah, let's ask our good friend Mr. Internet what's going on.
And see who's in it. Oh, Nick Cage doesn't even have top billing in this. It looks like a bunch of stuntmen made a movie. And then Nick Cage is also in it.
Yup.
Cool. Wow, it's from 2020. That's newer than I thought it was.
Yup. No, I specifically remember the chatter about this film, and I was like, I cannot fucking wait. I think it was a
I
direct.
just read the synopsis. What the fuck?
You have no idea. It's honestly the
Wait,
thing
what?
it reminded me of the
Yeah,
most.
wait, what?
I just
The
read the
thing it
first
reminded me
sentence.
of the.
No, Tony Jaa's here? What the fuck?
Yeah,
Okay, sorry,
the
you
thing it
tried to
reminded me
start
of the
this
most.
sentence like 7 times, and we're just keep
I have.
interrupting.
I've tried several times. It's like it's it's like a off. It's Kmart brand Mortal Kombat.
Oh man, I'm so stoked. Oh, that sounds like my kind of trash.
This
I do
does
have to
look
read
great.
the top featured review for this film on IMDb is the title is "One Star is Generous." This is the worst film I've ever seen in my life. The special effects were abysmal. The acting was awful. I don't even think they did any jujitsu either.
Oh my god, this was directed by the guy that did Slaughterhouse Rock. Oh, this is gonna be awful.
Uh,
Ooh, that movie's so bad. I can't wait to see this one.
I'm so excited.
Oh my god.
This is gonna be a pick me up.
Yeah, I think this is gonna be a little treat just for me.
Okay, there you go. Get excited, listeners. Jiu-Jitsu is next, and you are not ready for it. My co-hosts are not ready for it.
Oh,
I'm
I'm
not
ready
ready
for
for the
it.
rewatch.
I might have to rewatch Slaughterhouse Rock so I can talk about that one.
While you're waiting for those episodes to come out, check us out on social media. Stop by, say hi. We will respond. You can find us on Twitter at cagefight_pod.
Patreon.com/Nick Cage Fight, where we will. I think now actually we have to end the bit with the wrestler and just actually watch it. Ryan bought it. It has to be done.
I mean, it was $2. I was buying it just to have something in the chamber whenever we get around to it, so I don't have to pirate it.
Look, I've been wanting to watch it because, like, I am going to just gush about the pro wrestling scenes in this movie because they're so good.
Fair. I just remember the movie
so
being
ready
really
for
good,
it.
so.
Yeah, no, the movie's great, but like the pro wrestling scenes in it are fucking amazing and spot on. And it's based in New Jersey. It's awesome.
All right, so you heard it here. The Wrestler coming soon to a Patreon near you. And yeah, that's it. Thank you for listening. And as always, listeners, we appreciate you.
Bye-bye.
Spooky.